And if you can adapt those new dances and bring them in your repertoire, you've been looked upon as kind of an old-fashioned out of the loop. Now, I will talk very, very briefly once I get done dancing, and then we're going to have a little bit of Q&A. I've got a couple things to leave you, some thoughts to ponder while I get ready. First one being, why does bottled water have an expiration date on it? Have you ever seen anybody go, oh, it's stale? Secondly, why is it when you're talking to someone and they have to yawn, they'll try to hide it from you? You'll be looking at someone having a conversation, all of a sudden they'll just go. Did you yawn? What? No. All right, I'm going to warm up real quick. I'm going to play nice and loud. Let me warm up first. Ever do these when you're little? Yep. Why? You ever wake up any day of your life and be like, oh, I gotta get my day started. Alright, go ahead and hit it. The evolution of dance. You ain't gonna do all crying all the time. Well, you ain't never caught a rabbit and you ain't no friend of mine. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Take me by my little hand and go like this.
Can't you see? Jump around, jump around, jump around, jump around, jump up and get down. I like big butts and I cannot lie. You other brothers can't deny. Now when a girl walks in with an itty bitty waist and a round thing in your face, you I get no down. Bring it up again.
Yeah! At Roxbury.
I've been very long time. Where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you come from? Cotton Eye Joe.
Oh my.
Every day I'm shuffling. Wiggle, 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 wiggle.
Hey, I just met her. This is crazy, but she's way longer. So call me maybe.
Yo, man, let's get out of here. Word to your mother.
Bye, 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 bye,
Hold on a second. No, I'm just kidding. Let's do the elevation change. Casper. So they go, yeah, they get to meet. Wait a minute. Got the bus, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, life has changed. There's nothing that anyone will ever be able to do to keep the world from changing. The world's always moving all the time. You as an individual are always changing. You've got to understand that. You've got to accept that and learn to let go of the things that you don't have control over. Let go of the things that you don't want to work for. And then use your power of choice to change the things that you do. Step number one, let it go. Step number two, if you don't want to let it go, then do something about it. And if you don't want to do anything about it and you don't want to let it go, then please, just shut up and go away. Nobody wants to listen. I have no problem with people venting. I'm a big fan. I'm a big believer of venting. We have frustrations. We have stresses in life. We need to vent those things. But there's a fine line between venting and complaining. Once, that's a vent. Twice, that's complaining. Vent all that you want in life. And that doesn't mean you can go vent to 15 different people. Okay? Yeah. Okay? okay? I keep a journal. The journal is how I vent, because I don't necessarily always have somebody around me that I know or understands me. So my journal is how I vent. When I have problems, when I have frustrations, I can vent out in a journal. And then I let them go. Unless it's something that I really want to do something about. And then I ask myself, what choices do I need to make in order to create this change that I want? Life isn't always going to be perfect. Not always going to be the party that you hope for, but while you're here, you might as well dance. A couple things very quickly. I do have a Facebook. Please be my friend. No, seriously, please be my friend. You can find me on Facebook. My website is thestrugglebus.com. You can go there, you can find me that way. I do have a newsletter you can sign up for that I've never sent, but I'm thinking about sending out one day. You would get it if you sign up for it. I had to sign up for a newsletter on that thing for like 7 years, and I've never sent a newsletter once. There's probably somebody sitting in the middle of nowhere going, why haven't I gotten a newsletter? 7 years. So we do have a little bit of time. We're going to take about 10 minutes or so. If you guys have any questions, we're going to do a little Q&A very quickly. Yes, you got a question right away. Bingo. Do I know how to two-step? Of course. Do I know how to two-step well? That's the second question you should ask, and that would be no. Anyone else? Anyone else have any questions? Feel free, you can ask me whatever you want. I do know Gangnam Style. I put it in a couple times. It's getting a really mixed reaction. So, well, I mean, there's a whole bunch of, I mean, literally, you just got to step, step, move, 1, 2. Like the he stole that from Thriller. I mean, that's an old Thriller move, the step to the side. Just took out the over top thing. So there's only so many moves that you can do in dancing anyways, and then everything just becomes a variation of all those different moves. So it'll probably get back in there a little bit later. There's a couple other moves that are regional moves. There's one called, do you guys know the wobble yet? Yeah. The wobble is slowly making its way all the way. I mean, the wobble's like 4 years old. The song is. I only know the first part. I only know like that's the only part I know. I have to learn the rest of it, so I will eventually. So anyone else have any questions? Anything else? No. You're like, she wants to ask a question. She just asked a question. I don't think, trust me, you cannot ask her anything I'm never going to ask her for. Oh, okay. You can teach me how to wobble. Wobble, 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 wobble. Anyone else? Any other questions? Yes, sir. How long did it take you to learn Cotton Eye Joe? About 2 seconds. So when I first mixed the dance, I first started doing the dance in the year 2001. So I've been doing the dance for about 11 years. The very first time I ever performed the dance, it was 2.5 minutes long, 12 songs. So all I did is I mixed the music on my computer. I learned how to mix music. Again, here's the thing. I went and taught myself how to mix music, okay? I bought a program. I learned how to use that program. I had no idea how to do it. It really is not as difficult as you might think that it is, and it's actually something that's become quite easy now. Well, I didn't go to school for that. I went to school for recreation and leisure. I got a master's degree in recreation and leisure. Wow. Okay? You can get a master's degree in that. So you're like, that sounds like a pretty good idea. Yeah. My 2 internships, I worked on a cruise ship for a summer, and then I worked at a camp in Colorado up in the mountains. Those are my internships for my actual degree. So it is a pretty amazing degree. I'm a big fan of it. So I learned how to mix the music. I mixed the first 2.5 minute track, and I didn't practice it at all. I just went out and performed it. Fortunately, there is no videotape of that left. I have like a little tiny, like 9 seconds, and it is horrible. But it was fun enough, and there was enough of an audience reaction that I was like, okay, this is something people really like, and I continue to practice and get better at it. And I've performed it now about 1,000 times, probably more like 1,500 times in the last 10 years. So, anyone else? Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Really, the way everything went is, when I first started speaking, I've always known I wanted to do this. When I was in high school, I had a journal entry from 11th grade that says, I want to be a professional speaker. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know how you did that. I just knew that's what I thought that would be an awesome job. And as I went through school, I would sit in the audience like you, watch people up on stage, and every time I would watch them, I would be mesmerized, and I would always end up saying, I can do that. And so as I went through graduate school, I started learning a little bit more about the industry. I went to a couple conferences. I asked some people, I interviewed people. If there's ever a job that you're interested in, okay, because a lot of times in life we're interested in something, but we really don't know anything about it. We just think, oh, that'd be cool. Find 2 or 3 people that do it and interview them. Sit down with them, ask them can I have 30 minutes of your time? I'm interested in your profession, and I just want to learn more about what it actually entails day to day. Because a lot of people don't understand what every job actually is until they get into that job. I mean, I had a friend who was a teacher, kid you not, somebody that went to school for teaching, then went out and taught. I was like, I didn't realize I'd have to be around kids this much. I am not even making that up. Like, I don't know what they were thinking. They were like, oh, I remember hearing that, like, you got the summer ball. Like, that was like their big, well, I heard the summer, you know. And I thought the kids wouldn't be that. Maybe I thought maybe a couple times a day. She's like, I didn't realize it was like the whole day. So I interviewed some people. I found out a lot more about the industry. And one of the things that they mentioned was, in this world of being a speaker, performer, an artist of any sort, you have to do something that separates you from everybody else. Whatever that might be, you know, whether that's a new method, whether that's a different thing. And so my delivery was always a combination of comedy and content. And so when I came up with the idea for the dance, it just fit in nicely as a nice finisher. And that would be something that people would remember. So that's kind of how that whole came to be. Yes, sir.
What do you do with the recreation and leisure?
Well, amazingly, I'm probably one of the few people that actually gets to use their degree in the fact that I studied an area of psychology called emotional intelligence and how to use games and activities to teach leadership and emotional intelligence skills. So whenever I do leadership training, like a weekend retreat or a full day, I get to use a lot of the stuff that I actually studied. So for example, one of the things, the reason that finger game is so fun, whenever you do a presentation of anything, anytime you can get the audience to shift, and by shift, I mean change the state that they are in. Right now, you're all sitting, looking at me, doing nothing, okay? You're in a state. Anything that you can do as a presenter that moves you from that state to a different state is good for the brain. Whether that's make you laugh, whether that's make you go, like, I don't have a story that makes anybody go, oh my gosh. You know, there are people that have had unbelievably horrific things happen to them. And, you know, you're listening to them talk. So I learned how the brain actually retains information. And that's why I use comedy so much, because every time you laugh, you're changing states back and forth, back and forth. And that actually increases your ability to remember information. So I actually get to use a lot of what I studied about, which is very, very good. So, anyone else? Yeah. Define what? Depression.
That modern society, first world, people get depressed because of
Yeah. So depression is a very unique topic. You've got the extreme end. You have people who believe that every person that ever feels sad is depressed. You've got people like Tom Cruise who believe that depression is made up word, or people in Scientology who believe that. I think depression lies somewhere right in the middle. There are things that happen within our brains that cause certain things. Okay, our brain, we are literally just starting to learn about our brains. You know, in the last 10 to 15 years, there's been an advance in science in a machine called a functioning MRI. Very similar to what you would go if you've ever had an MRI on a body part. They put your brain into an MRI, and then they do all sorts of different tests. And what happens is your brain lights up in different areas. Okay? Every single one of us has different parts of our brain that light up for everything. So you can have depression that is caused by chemical imbalances, or problems in your brain, or trauma in your brain, or, I mean, there's all sorts of things. It used to be the only way they knew anything about the brain was if somebody got really, really hurt, and then that caused something. Like there was one guy who literally, he had a steel pole go through his head. He was alive, went through his brain, but they learned more from that guy than anything else, because it went through a certain part of his brain, and then he was unable to recognize emotions for the rest of his life. He literally couldn't tell an emotion, one thing from another. So he had that inability socially, like somebody could say something to him and he would just take it for whatever exactly they said. So there are parts of our brain that definitely, so depression to me is a very complex issue in that it can be caused by our own external wants and desires, okay? But it also can actually be caused by chemical imbalance. So, you know, I don't believe that 20% of the country has a chemical imbalance. Okay? I believe that we've moved to a position in our society now where we want instant fixes. And I'm just as guilty of it as anybody. You know, we want to lose weight fast. Okay? Weight that you lose fast, you gain back just the same amount of time. Study upon study upon study. In order to lose weight successfully over a long term, it's literally got to be at the most a pound to 2 pounds per week. Okay? That's a healthy amount of weight to lose if you're trying to make a change from a physical standpoint. But how many millions and billions of dollars do people pay because they see somebody that says, oh, I lost 47 pounds in 90 days? Well, that's an unhealthy way to lose weight. So we've done it to ourselves. We want instant everything. So people believe I can take a pill, and then I'll be okay. But they don't. There's a great book called Plato, not Prozac, and it talks about how we've gotten away from learning about life and understanding about life and understanding the basic philosophies and thinking, and just said, I'll take a pill for that. My parents, I love my parents very much. I love my parents. My parents did an amazing job. My parents are both extremely obese. And by extreme, I mean really, really obese. Because of that, they have knee problems. They both have both knees replaced. And then they didn't do their physical therapy that they were supposed to do all the way through, so now they're having knee problems again. And we sit and we talk about it, and I don't blame them. I'm not telling them they're wrong. I mean, people are people. They make choices. But they want to get new knees again because they think that that'll fix their knee problem. But it won't. There's an underlying cause for that they need to address in order for that to happen. So I know that's kind of a roundabout answer. I can't define for you and say depression is this. Because it's like saying, what is love? You know, what love is for you is different than the person sitting next to you. And depression is the same way. Some people, I do believe 100% deal with an emotional, actual changing of the brain. And that's where we're still just learning so much more about what that can do and what that can't do to our brains. And especially when it comes to like dopamine, serotonin, things like that. You know, one of the reasons that meth is such a horrific drug, most drugs all do the same thing. When you take a drug, it releases dopamine and serotonin in your brain. Dopamine and serotonin feel really good. Okay? Different things in life release different amounts of serotonin and dopamine in your brain. Okay? Some of them feel really good, which makes you want to feel that again. Meth and ecstasy are two drugs that one dose, one single dose, actually changes the way your brain reabsorbs the dopamine and serotonin. So one simple little tiny dose, doing it one time, can permanently damage your brain for the rest of your life. I mean, meth, I know in Wyoming has a big meth problem. Everywhere's got a big meth problem right now. And that's one of the biggest problems with it is one time alone hooks you almost instantly from a brain standpoint. So, all right, next question. I'll stop for a second. What's that? Sure.
What you're describing to me would be someone who is however old, himself, 2 or 3-year-old, having tantrum, they house and get it. To me, depression would be having no hope or not.
So you're looking at it from a philosophical standpoint, like the giving up of that. And that's true. I mean,
Depression has to be defined by getting no where it's going.
part of it. I mean, and that's the thing, you know, we can't put a label on depression.
Basically, every single person who really has sick or has something about hope.
Yeah, do you have hope? Do you think that things will ever get better? Do you think that things will ever get better? And the more on the line that you say no, the more that they think you're depressed. So the question is then, what's causing you to not have hope? Is it a chemical imbalance? Is it a, yeah, I mean, it could be, you know, it could be a traumatic experience you had as a young child that you didn't even realize or remember or anything like that. I mean, I've seen people and, you know, watch studies of people, something happened to them when they were young, and they're stuck at that age. So, yeah. So, you know, it's a tough thing to define. And, yeah. Anyway, so anyone else have any other questions? I'll come back to your next one, okay? How's that? We'll do that one.
How long have you been doing this?
I've been doing it full-time for a little over 10 years. I've been doing it, I had a job the first 2 years when I finished graduate school while I started speaking because I wasn't making enough money speaking to actually pay my bills. So I worked a job in a painting company. It was awesome. I painted houses for like 12 years, so it was a skill that I had, and it really was awesome. It was something I knew I wasn't going to do for long term, but it was a really good short-term solution, a great way to make money. It was a great skill set to have, and I could just do it around my schedule. The person who owned the company loved it because he had a person that had a master's degree that was running one of his crews versus the guys who were just getting out of jail. 3 times over one summer I had to go pick up 2 different guys from jail. They would call me because it was the county jail was closer to where I lived. They were like, hey, You think you can come pick me up tomorrow morning? Where are you at? Well, I'm over at county. Sure, you gotta work, right? Yep, we gotta go paint. So. All right, back to your other question.
Your steps, the one where you didn't answer is if you have something that you cannot live with,
If you have something that you could not live with,
I don't think you really want to change.
why can't you change it?
You're a father.
And that's something, that's where acceptance comes in. And depending on how long ago that happened, you know, the 5 stages of grief and those different types of things. The thing about death is this. The hardest thing about death is for us to admit how much of a selfish thing death is. When somebody passes away that we love, when somebody passes away that we care for, we are not sad because they're gone, because that they won't get to experience life. We're sad because they're not going to be here for us. And that's really hard for us to accept because it's no different than in life. You know, you'll see people who are hurting, who are in pain. We don't want to lose those people. You know, when somebody breaks up with us in a relationship, we strive for happiness. There are people who argue, psychologists, sociologists who argue the only thing that we care about in life is happiness. Every decision we make, every move that we do, we're doing it because we believe it is going to make us happy. Okay? Now, we don't always necessarily understand exactly what will make us happy. Okay? Sometimes we get mixed up in what will bring happiness and what, you know, things like that. So when we do certain things, so when somebody passes away, when somebody moves away, when something happens, when someone is taken away from us, that happiness is gone because we're happy when we're with that person. And that's the hardest thing in life to accept, is when there's something that bugs us, that bothers us, that we really want, but there's nothing that we can actually do anything about. And that's one of those things, I know it's the biggest cliche in the book, that, you know, time heals all wounds, blah, 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 on and on and on. It doesn't always heal all wounds. Okay, you know, some wounds will remain forever. And depending on, you know, it can even go back to the whole life isn't fair thing. My fiance has a beautiful little niece. She's 3 years old. She has a horrible start already. She was born to her sister. Her sister is not mentally stable. Won't sit down for counseling. Won't take care of the baby. Her mom, so my future mother-in-law, had to step in and get legal custody of at the time, she was only like 6 months. Well, about 6 months ago, she got diagnosed with juvenile diabetes. Now, you know anything about diabetes, anything about juvenile diabetes, her life is going to be completely, totally different than anybody else's life. Minimum 3 shots a day for the rest of her life. There's nothing we can do about it. And you know, you go through this process and you just feel so bad for her because you think that's just something that she's going to have to deal with. And it's so unfortunate, but that's just the way life is. And that's what's so unfortunate about it. It doesn't mean that you can't feel empathy for them. It doesn't mean that you can't. When we are doing all that we can to help, we're going to be there all the time, helping to make sure that she has the best life she can have. Because she already has a bad start to begin with. Now she's got this on top of that. And we're fortunate enough that we can be in her life and help as much as possible. But you can still argue that's just not fair. And anytime you find yourself getting to that argument, it just comes to that point where you realize it's something you have to learn to accept. Doesn't mean you have to like it. Again, acceptance of something and liking of something are 2 totally different things. Okay? It's like accepting somebody in your life because they have to be in your life. Because when you work with them or they're in your class, you don't even have to like them. I mean, that's hard. That's hard for a lot of people to understand. You can have somebody that's in your life that you treat with respect, you know, whatever it might be. It doesn't mean you have to like them. Do you want a philosophical answer, or do you want a brain answer? You know, our brains are a lot like water, in that everything that happens in your brain is an electrical charge, it's electrical current. Now, I'm not going to give you a whole brain, you know, synapse. And again, please don't think I'm a brain expert in any way. So everything that I'm telling you, take it with a grain of salt. I am not a doctor. I am not an expert in any sort of way. These are just the things that I've learned, the things that I've researched. But they know that your brain takes the same path over and over and over again. Okay? It's habitual. So when you do something the same way over and over and over again, it's a reinforcement every single time. So, for example, texting when you drive. Okay? We've all texted when we've driven. Okay? I'm guilty of it. I probably will do it an hour or so. Okay? I know I'm not supposed to do it, but here's the thing. 99.99999% of all the people and all the times that anyone ever texts and drives, nothing happens. So every time you text and drive and nothing happens, you're simply reinforcing that idea that nothing's going to happen. It's why we make bad decisions. You know, 99% of the time when people drink and drive, nothing happens. But we're not concerned about the 99% of the time. We're concerned about that 1%, because those are things that are avoidable. But every time somebody that does it, and doesn't get into an accident, it just reinforces the idea that it's okay, that you're going to be okay. You know, life, 99% of the time, life's pretty good. You know, when you look at your whole life, at all the things, you know, you look at your normal day, everything that happens, most of it is just normal. Okay? But every once in a while, you fall out 1%, you know, something really, really bad happens. So because of that, because of those habits, you know, you probably heard there's an old, I think it used to be 21. Like people say, oh, you have to do something for 21 days to form a new habit. That's actually false. You have to do something about 70 days or 70 times to form a new habit. Okay? And it takes even more to break an old habit. Because that's what they are. They're habits. And habits are normal for us. I mean, it's no different than trying to write with the other hand. I mean, literally, you're so wired into your brain to do it this way. To try to do it the other way is next to impossible. How many people you sit in the exact same seat every single time once you start a class? Within the first week, you get a seat in that class, and there's no assigned seats, but you sit in the same spot almost every time. You take the same way home every single time. You drive the same way all day. You know, you get in the car, you have the same person. When you go to bed at night, you have the same routine. You do it every single day. And routines can be good. Routines, I mean, it doesn't mean that routines are bad. But what that means, in order to break those things, regardless of what those things are, it either takes a very traumatic event or something that you've got to do, that you've got to focus. You know, I mean, you really got to focus on it. And it's not easy. I mean, it's not easy. Okay? But that doesn't mean it can't be done. And a lot of times through the power of choice, you know, I was talking earlier, I decided to do a cleanse a couple weeks ago. My fiance had done a little cleanse. I don't feel low energy. I wasn't worried about, I wasn't having any body problems, things like that. It was just something I wanted to see if I could do. I wanted to test and see if I had any food incompatibility. Okay, sometimes we have incompatibilities with food that we don't know about because they're not full-blown allergies. So I decided to do this cleanse, 21 days. It was a choice that I made. Now the cleanse for the first 10 days, nothing. No caffeine, no alcohol. You can only have fruits, vegetables, brown rice, or lentils. That's pretty much it. Okay? Now I know you're all just like, oh my God. You make these shakes in the morning and lunch, 2 to 5 shakes per day, and then you're taking some pills. The second day of the cleanse, I didn't do my research ahead of time as far as looking at my schedule. I went to Atlanta and I was speaking for the Atlanta Association of Internal Authors. Very fun, energetic bunch. They were actually a lot of fun. But the night before, they had like a reception for people who were presenting and some of the people on board and all stuff. And it was at like Atlanta's #1 steakhouse. And I love steak. I mean, I love a good steak. So I'm sitting there, day 2 of the cleanse, mind you. So I just started it. And I'm eating a bowl of broccoli. And I was sitting there thinking, and I was just going to be like, you know what, whatever, I'll just restart the cleanse tomorrow. Not a big deal. There were no cleanse police. Like, nobody was going to come get angry at me if I did this. It's a choice that I made. And it wasn't easy, but I made it, and I made it through. And I've cheated a couple times. I'm literally on day 18 right now. I have 3 days left. Okay, I got to make it till, now I can have protein. Now I can have chicken, fish, things like that. That made it a little bit more bearable. But no sugar, no caffeine, no nuts, no carbohydrates, no bread, you know, none of those things. And I feel great, I really do. I feel really, really good. And then I will slowly add those things back in to see if I have food out of them. Again, it's a choice that I'm making. It wasn't forced by a doctor. It wasn't forced because I had a slight heart attack or things like that. And part of it is I want to see if I have the same will that I'm telling other people they need to have. You know, I don't want to be the hypocrite that stands up here and says, hey, you guys should do this in your life, but I'm going to go do this over here. Because there's a lot of people who do that. There's a lot of people who will tell you this is what you should do, and then over here they're doing something completely, totally different. So that's why I try not to tell people what to do, because I don't always do exactly what I'm supposed to do either. I don't even know if that answers your question. You ask why does it take something really, really traumatic usually in order to get somebody to change, and a large part of it is because for most things in life, if we don't have a reason to change, we won't. Period. No different than relationships. Most people won't break up with somebody unless they have a reason to break up with them. How many times have you heard people be like, yeah, I'm in a relationship. Are you going to marry that person? Nah, probably not. So then why are you still in a relationship with them? Well, I don't know. It's fun. Whatever. There's not really a reason to break up with them or anything. I mean, it's going fine, but there's no way I'm going to marry them. To me, that just doesn't make sense, but to some people it makes total sense. If there's not a reason to change, we usually don't change. And sometimes that reason can come because we learn something new, we recognize something, we go, oh my gosh, I need to make a change here. Or because something traumatic happens and something really changes the way that we need to look at things. And sometimes it's just because we don't know any better. We're not educated enough in whatever it is that we need to change, and we don't force ourselves to go learn about those particular things. All right, one more question. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Well, I just had to comment on a point mentioned the guy, the pipe ended up two guys' head.
Yes.
They actually took his skull and put it in the museum.
That guy's a very, very famous guy. There are a lot of famous, they used to do some really, really bad experiments on people. Like, back in the day before they used to have the humanitarian boards, now if you want to do an experiment with subjects, you have to get it approved by a board. You guys probably maybe remember baby Einstein. If you ever took a basic psychology class, this guy Pavlov was dealing with a thing called conditioning. And what conditioning is can you create a situation where something is associated with something else, so that when that outside stimuli happens, it gets a reaction. So the way they first did it is they would take a dog, they would ring a bell, they would put food in front of the dog. Now when dogs get ready, if you have a dog, if you ever had a dog, when they get ready to eat, saliva starts to, because the saliva enzyme bubbles, so they start salivating. So what they would do then, they would do that over and over. So they would ring a bell, put the food, ring a bell, put the food. And then what they did is they cut off the side of the dog's face. Okay? Like they literally just, not like the whole thing, just enough of the cheek so that the saliva could actually be collected. And then what they would do is they would ring the bell, and the dog would start salivating. That was conditioned. They conditioned the dog to salivate when the bell rang, because the dog was conditioned to believe that food was going to follow. Okay? So they said, okay, works with dogs, wonder if it works with humans. So they got a little baby. They would put the baby down and they would bring a bunny in. They would let the bunny come out and the baby would be like, oh, the bunny. And then they would take a symbol, like the symbol, right behind the baby and just crash it. And they did that several times over, and the baby would cry every time it heard the symbol. So eventually, when the bunny came out, the baby started crying automatically.
That's horrible.
It is horrible. They don't do that stuff anymore. But they learned a lot from those things that they had. There was one study, they took a set of twins. I don't know how they got the mother to agree with this. They took a set of twins, identical twins, and for literally their whole life, the twins' whole life, the mother emotionally responded to the emotions that the baby was making with one and ignored the emotions of the other. So like if a baby was crying, oh, baby crying, with the baby, like people do with babies. And the other one was completely cold and just basically went through the motions. And then what they did is they tracked these two twins for the rest of their life. And we can all pretty much probably figure out what happened as they went through life. The baby that had been reacted with was more socially apt, was more outgoing, was better with people. This person was very introverted, had a hard time dealing with people, was miserable, all those different types of things. And I don't know how they got a mom to agree with that. Okay, that would never happen today, unless it was Aqua Mom. They paid her a lot of money. Because she needs it. But, all right, so we got a little bit of time. I believe you got a volleyball game coming up. What time does the volleyball game start at?
Game's at 7, but dinner is at 5:30 in the Fremont room for those that are staying.
Okay, dinner is at 5:30. It's the Fremont. What time is it right now? 5. It's 5, so you got like 30 minutes to make it to the Fremont room. Whoop, whoop. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your weekend. See you out.